The one thing that fear does is it promises safety while secretly creating imprisonment. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. My name is Matt Codde, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Restored Minds. And today I want to talk about surrendering the payoffs and benefits of lower emotion, specifically fear, in this episode. And I want to talk about 5 potential things that need to be looked at in order to do the work of actually transcending fear. So, one of the things about lower emotion is that they are just states of suffering. Fear, anger, guilt, depression, grief, sadness, shame, pride, desire, right? All of this stuff. If we're in these states in a chronic way, it is suffering. It's painful. We don't it's a form of discomfort and distress. And if we're in them long enough, they kind of have this compounding effect where they feed one another. So you get more afraid, and then you get, again, fearful about being afraid, or you get angry that you're having to deal with this, or you get depressed about being afraid, and then you get angry about being depressed. And your pride really maintains a certain viewpoint, which then causes feelings of despair and hopelessness and so on and so forth, right? And then if we give a lot of time to fear, it can feed into guilt and shame and all this other stuff. So it's not like we just deal with one emotion. It's our one state of consciousness, but we're going to focus on fear because it's the predominant thing that most people are really operating in when it comes to these lower emotions, and it fuels so much of our energy and what we do and how we think and all of this. So in order to transcend fear, we obviously have to learn to surrender and confront actual fear and release that. And I talk all about this, and that's what the AAA response is for, and how we need to learn to become non-resistant to our emotions, and so on and so forth. But today, I want to talk about kind of a meta category, or a kind of something that's kind of going on behind the scenes that needs to be brought to the surface and addressed and attended to in order to be successful with that. And that is to surrender the benefit that you perceive that you get from being in this state. And again, that might, like I said, cause a reaction within you. There is no benefit to this. I want to get out of this, all this stuff. But let's go ahead and step back and look at it, right? Because anything that we believe, anything that we do, we do because we believe that it's serving some type of purpose. So when it comes to fear, there are certain perceived benefits that we can believe we're obtaining by being in fear. So first one being a just general sense of safety, right? So the narrative would go something to the effect of, if I think and worry and ruminate and analyze, I'll be prepared for these futuristic terrible outcomes. And then I will be able to sidestep, or, I'll be able to mitigate how terrible they are if they happen in my life. Let's go ahead and look at kind of the thinking behind that. So number one, you're just assuming bad is going to come into your life, and you're putting yourself in a fearful state of bad. Now, interestingly enough, by being in that state of consciousness, there is a certain aspect that's going to start to steer you in a way where you're going to start encountering those things, right? And just in the same way, I mean, it's really obvious when we step back and look at this with fear, but it has this tendency to draw us towards the very things that we don't want to go, or don't want to happen. So for instance, if I'm constantly driving and I'm constantly worrying about being in a crash, I'm more likely to get in a crash than if I'm calmly just, driving and just paying attention, not assuming that I'm going to get in a crash, because then I'm overreactive and hypervigilant in all of that. Similarly, if I'm afraid of getting a disease all the time and I'm washing my hands, and I, to my point where my hands are bleeding, and all my hands are just kind of like open sores, I'm more likely to contract the disease, if you believe in germ theory, right? Because I'm more susceptible to it. Now, it has this weird paradoxical way. So the more that we fear and the more we live from fear, we think we're being protective, but it's the same way if someone is afraid that their spouse is going to leave them, right? We can go through all the different themes. if someone is terrified that their spouse is going to leave them and they're calling them every day, like, "Are you going to leave me today? Are you going to leave me today?" To quell their fear, it's going to drive their spouse away. This is just very practical stuff. It's not about like some mystical, thing. It doesn't need to be about that. It's just kind of just obvious. If someone's terrified of losing all their money, they end up doing really silly things that oftentimes make them lose money. So the first thing that we have to let go of, this idea of I'm more safe, or I'm safer if I sit and ruminate and do all my compulsions and feed my fear. You have to be able to let that go, that payoff of that idea go, because if you truly believe that, we will stay in the cycle of fear, even if it causes us suffering, because we believe that we're getting this indirect payoff. So, second potential payoff or gain that we have, right, is this idea of the illusion of control. We think that, if I'm hyper vigilant and I'm always focused on these negative outcomes, this chaotic world, I'm controlling the outcomes. Now, interestingly enough, it's like fear is not control in any way. If anything, you're under the control of fear, right? Because when you're in this state of fear, your mind's just running automatically and you are kind of under this spell of it, right? Whatever your mind says, you just react to as if it's true. And this is the one thing that fear does, is it promises safety while secretly creating imprisonment. And that's the obvious problem with fear. And when you're in fear, it doesn't look that way to you. It looks like you're being safe. It looks like you're in control. It looks like you're just, I'm responsible, or, I think so much about this stuff because I care so much. And we can also take on these sense of identities, which is number 3. So this identity of I'm the one who thinks and plans out better than everyone. And we have like a sense of pride in that. And if we have this sense of pride that that's who I am, and I do all this stuff because that's who I am, then we won't let that go, because then we have to let go of that identity too. Or that I'm the overly responsible one. I'm the one that cares. I see things better. We take a weird sense in our superiority and our ability to think better than everyone. And that, again, is just something that I see very common with people in these loops, is that they're convinced that there's this pride and sense of superiority or better than, because I'm so thoughtful and because I worry and because I analyze. Now, if you gain a certain benefit and energy from that pride of believing that about yourself, you're not going to let go of the fear, right? It kind of just goes with each other. Now, the last two are really this idea of an avoidance of deeper pain. So this is what I talk about in TBC when I talk about like the deeper levels of healing. Once we break the loop, we then need to go into healing the personas, the core beliefs and core emotional wounds, because staying in fear can keep us, while it may be a sense of suffering, if there's lower emotion there that needs to be healed, staying in fear protects us from that state of emotion. Because fear is higher than some of those wounded emotions of shame, embarrassment, guilt, all of this stuff that is down there, right? And fear, if we stay in it and we hyperfixate and ruminate and stay in these loops, it protects us from confronting and experiencing those. And this is why healing involves the courage to confront fear, but also confront our lower emotions under that as well, and really go in through the integration process so that we no longer fear our emotions and we're not secretly running from them or operating from them with fear in these loops. And then lastly is this fear has this weird kind of paradoxical self-justification where, because I'm afraid, fear is instant rationale not to change, right? Like most people, this is probably the number one thing I'd say that keeps people stuck in the loop on a ongoing basis, right? Because we have to understand this loop is a self-sustaining thing. And if you don't acknowledge that, you have to understand that it can go indefinitely. People can spend their whole lives in this loop in one variation or another. They may take little like kind of pockets of breaks, but that's just how they'll exist on their time on this earth. They don't need to. This is absolutely something that you and everyone else can transcend. But the built-in justification of fear is fear provides an instant rationale to not risk, right? So I don't want to challenge myself because I'm afraid to do it. And fear becomes its own barrier as to why the person won't take the risk to confront fear. And then it creates its own just self-perpetuating prison. And these things of using fear as justification, right? Avoiding deeper pain, familiar identity, illusion of control, and then a sense of safety. These things are all these secret payoffs that we gain from being in a state or perpetuating this loop. And you may only really connect to one or two of these, or maybe all of these. It's okay. But in order to confront fear, we have to surrender the benefit that we get of it. This is what we would call secondary gains. If, for instance, if someone sits and ruminates all day long and their parents, let them move back in with them, and the parents do all the laundry and cook for them, and they don't, and pay all their bills, the gain is that they in order, if they got better, they would need to go and like get a job and start paying bills and do their laundry and all this other stuff. So the gain is I don't need to take on any responsibility. We have to be able to look at these secondary gains here, right? And be able to really authentically assess within ourselves, like, what is the secondary gain I get from being in this loop? And if you can't just, blatantly see it, it's like, it takes some time to like really explore this idea. Because in order to transcend the fear, you have to be willing to let go of the benefit or the payoff that you get from living in it. And that then relinquishes the payoff, which allows you to much easier confront fear itself and transcend it. So some thoughts for today, and I hope they're helpful. I hope they, just at least stimulate some thinking within you. With that, we have some great resources down in the notes, so please check those out. You can head over to restoredminds.com as well. And if you benefit from the show, please obviously help us out by liking, subscribing, and leaving a nice review on iTunes and Spotify. And with that, I will see you guys in the next episode. Talk soon. Hey there, this is Matt Codde, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time to watch that episode. And if you found it helpful, we have some other episodes available for you as well that we've linked here. And if you're looking for additional resources, I have links down in the notes, or you can head over to restoredminds.com/start to get started with some new free resources that we have available. Thanks so much, and look forward to seeing you soon.